We're speaking with Niger Innis with the Congress of Racial Equality CORE. Niger, thanks you so much for being here on NRA News and Cam and Company. I want to talk with you about the Justice Department silent as Attorney General Holder charges critics with racism. This story is out. It's big. Basically, the Attorney General is saying that anyone who criticizes himself or the president about Fast and Furious or other things, it's all racially motivated. Your response to that?
I think it's most unfortunate. I mean, one of the things that we in the civil rights movement fought so hard for, and actually, ironically, often at odds with various attorneys generals in the 1960s and the 1950s, for that matter, was making sure that our country provided for equal opportunity so that minorities and the disadvantaged would have the opportunity to rise based on their own merits. But we didn't push for that opportunity so that when people achieved those levels of power, to be able to eternally use the race card. And I think that Attorney General Holder does himself a great disservice and really does the African-American community and minorities in general, many of whom look up to him and to President Obama as historic firsts, when they turn themselves from being some of the most powerful men in the country, or in the case of the president, the most powerful man in the world, and making themselves into victims. It does a disservice to what we fought for in the first place.
Niger, I remember the campaign, of '08 and the election of President Obama, and this was supposed to be a post-racial president. We were supposed to get away from these divides and these labels and these accusations. What happened to that? I
must tell you, there's a terrible, bitter irony about that phenomenon. I know of many independent conservatives and even Republicans that actually voted for for candidate Obama, for then Senator Obama, precisely because of that. Precisely because, well, they said, well, I may not agree on this issue, I may not agree on that issue, but at least electing this guy will turn the page on race. It will end the Sharptonization era of American politics and American discourse, and that we will have turned the page on race. We will be a post-racial and post-race card society. And it's sad to say that it's ironic. We see, I keep bringing up his name, we see Al Sharpton being very mainstream these days, having a show on MSNBC, and actually he has matured a great deal, while at the same time, simultaneously, I'm sad to say, that mainstream figures of the Democratic Party, including the President of the United States, including the Attorney General, have used tactics that Al Sharpton walked past 25 years ago, and that is using the race card and playing it from the bottom of the deck. It does not do a service to those individuals as individuals. It doesn't do a service to the offices that they occupy, and it doesn't do a service to the history and the memory and what we have overcome in this country.
We're talking to Niger Innis with the Core of the Congress of Racial Equality with CORE. And Niger, what really floored me when this story came out, Cameron Gray came here and told me about, you got to see this story, and it is so big because what has been so disappointing with me, and we, I know it's just a hackneyed term to talk about playing the race card, but this administration has been so quick to play the race card in so many different ways, blah, 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 blah. And then I see this story where they're coming the other way, where anyone who criticizes, and let me tell you about, I'm pretty familiar with this story about Fast and Furious. People that are going after Attorney General Holder or the administration are not playing the race card. And it really just floors me that this tactic. I'm aghast. Is this desperation? Why do you think they're doing this?
Well, the reason they're doing it is because, as Britt Hume of Fox News said, the most powerful charge that one American can use against another American today is to accuse that American of being a racist. because of our history, because of the centuries of dealing with, struggling with the issue of race in our country. It is I would argue, the most powerful charge that is used today. And people now have used it, unfortunately, many elements within the Democratic Party and a lot of folk on the left use it now as a powerful political bludgeon and a political weapon. And in doing so, they should remember the story of the boy who cried wolf. I mean, it is a powerful weapon. It's the most powerful weapon today. But at some point, there is diminishing returns. At some point, the pendulum could swing the other way. And so they do a real disservice to those who actually might be real victims of racism or discrimination of some sort. And let us also remember that when you're the Attorney General of the United States, at least for the last 15 years, probably even longer than that, yes, you're going to get hit by a couple of fastballs. When you say you want to be a heavyweight and fight for the heavyweight championship, you can't complain and cry when someone hits you in the mouth. That's the way it goes in politics. And Eric Holder and President Barack Obama are some of the most powerful men in the history of the country right now, and that just goes with the job.
It goes with the territory.
Ask Alberto Gonzalez, who was forced to resign because of all kinds of pressures that were put on him.
But, no one would say, I can't imagine any of these same people would say that people were against Alberto Gonzalez because he had Mexican descent.
Absolutely not. That's the last thing that they would say. They would say that they were completely justified in persecuting Alberto Gonzalez, although he was doing what it is any new cabinet head's right to do, which is to clean house if they so choose to do so. But because of that, and because it gave the perception to some that it was political in motivation, they put an unbelievable amount of pressure on Alberto Gonzalez, and he was forced to resign. People should remember that when they're talking about Attorney General Holder and the pressures being brought to bear on him.
As a conservative Jew talking to a conservative African American, it's good to talk to a fellow unicorn when it comes to this kind of stuff, Niger. Because there's so few of us.
We have to have a thick skin, my friend.
Yes. So it's good to talk to someone in my tribe. But you look at Congressman Allen West, who's also a conservative black member of Congress. He is one of the biggest critics of the Obama administration and the Attorney General Holder's handling and treatment of Fast and Furious. How could he be? Is he a racist?
Well, yeah. Well, I think they would say he's a traitorous racist.
Oh, okay, that's right. That's right. Yes, that's right.
I think those terms have been launched at myself and my father over the years. But you know what? It's having diminishing returns, and I think the American people are not going to buy that any longer. And I think that again, I'm looking past the partisanship. I'm looking past the politics, and I'm saying, as a proud African-American conservative and just a proud American, period, I'm so proud of how far our country has come and the strides we have made on race. I think we have nothing to be ashamed of vis-a-vis our own history or vis-a-vis any other country on the planet. We are far in advance ahead of any country on the planet, including those in Africa, those in Europe, or in Asia. If you look at the ethnic and racial strife, we have overcome so much in this country. And when a person in a position of power achieves that position of power and then has to take the slings of arrows that come with the job, should somehow make themselves into some poor, innocent little victim, it does a disservice to that great progress we've made as a country.
We're speaking with Niger Innis, Congress of Racial Equality Core. And Niger, you talked about taking those slings and arrows. How does it make you feel? You fought so valiantly, as your father has, for so many years, for racial equality, and done so much. To see an attorney general and a president and Justice Department use this kind of stuff and throw the race card out there time after time after time, how does it make you feel?
It's dangerous.
How does it do? Does it damage the movement? And what is it? How does it make you feel?
It absolutely undermines movement, as I said earlier. But I want to say something else. I think it's terribly dangerous for our polity as a country. I mean, what is it that holds us together as a country? We're obviously not all one race. We obviously have different ethnicities. In many cases, and in many parts of our country, we don't even speak the same language. But it is a belief that we're all in this together. It's a belief in the Constitution of the United States, and it's a belief of anti-balkanization, of anti-tribalism that has destroyed so many countries and is destroying so many countries around the world as we speak. And this kind of behavior, this kind of racial demagoguery that takes place in the Obama administration, and unfortunately by the Attorney General, undermines that polity. It undermines what cements us as a country and as a people.
Nigel, last question before we let you go. And you're talking about racially charged items. You know, we talk about, especially in recent days with the Justice Department, we're talking about voter ID laws, and this has been a topic going back and forth recently, and it's been, of course, now with the campaign and with 2012 coming up, you know, what is CORE's take on voter ID laws, and what is your take on people who say they're outright racist?
I think that, again, it's playing the race card from the bottom of the deck. For me, it is a question of voter integrity, and considering how hard it was for African Americans. It took us almost a century after being newly freed American citizens and having a civil war where tens of thousands, over hundreds of thousands of Americans gave their life to secure our liberty and our citizenship. And the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution were passed and implemented to preserve our citizenship and our ability and right to vote. And then another darn near 100 years were fought to make what was put in law an actual fact. I take voting very seriously. I take voting rights extremely seriously, and I also take voter integrity very seriously. Comparing someone being able to show an ID, which you have to do to get a bag of potato chips if you want to use your debit card, okay? To somehow the poll tax and all kinds of machinations of vehicles that were used to deter and to prevent blacks from exercising their constitutional right to vote is outrageous. It's an insult to the thousands of blacks that were disenfranchised over the decades, and it's an insult to those who take voting deadly seriously. And I would just say to the American people and to these governors and these state legislatures that are trying to promote voter integrity, keep a rigid backbone, don't cave.
Absolutely. Niger Innis, Congress for Racial Equality, thank you so much, sir, for being with us here on NRA News. You say it so well and so eloquently. We appreciate you taking time to be with us today.
Gentlemen, I look forward to seeing you in Vegas.
We'll see you there.
Thanks,
you,
Niger.
Okay, take care.